little time in Bible college, living as roomies.
Yeah, you put up with me for a whole year and then decided, not anymore.
It's called graduation.
Oh, is that what it was? I just figured you left because you didn't want to room with me anymore.
No, that we could still be friends after living with each other for a year.
Yeah.
I probably will never forget the day my dad died. And I just said, I need to tell my friends, who are my friends? And all that came to me were Greg and Larry are my friends. I need to tell them. And then I am blessed with so many great friendships up here in Madison. But all I could think of was Greg and Larry. And then I looked through my phone and contacted other people. But man, that shows how deeply burned our friendships are, whether we like it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. And that just, it almost overwhelms me with emotion to think of that.
Yeah. And speaking of being overwhelmed, just the other day, I was thinking, it's May. It's May of 2020. It was May of 2000. That we were just struggling with the financial aspect. We knew that God had called us to do this transformational prayer ministry, and my schedule was booked and people's lives were being changed, but there wasn't the financial component. And you guys were gracious enough to host a little fundraiser at your house, probably like on a Thursday night. I think I came down and gave a presentation, and seemed like people nodded their heads quite a bit. And then we all said goodnight without any commitments. And I don't know who was more disappointed at that point, you or me. And you remember what I said to you? I'm like, because you asked, you said, is there anything there? I wish there was something else I could do. Well, you know what? Maybe this is about what God might want to do in your heart. I didn't know if you were struggling with anything.
And I just was struggling with a family member at the time, and was being accused of being a hypocrite and being accused of some things that I didn't appreciate. And so I kind of leaned on that to see if that's what I was truly struggling with. You were leading and guiding. Some other things that came out were my addiction to alcohol, and what I had.
You though, only to you. Like I didn't know. You didn't say anything about that.
Right.
Right.
That's where I knew needed to come out, and I knew that was a dark spot in my heart that was probably the underlying issue of how I dealt with a lot of things and how I covered things up in my life. Started, I think I was about 14 years old, and I had some really close friends in high school, at Elkhorn High School, that I thought were part of the in group, the in crowd. I was always wanting to be the most popular guy in school, and I was always wanting to be on the class favorite, and wanted to be the best athlete. I was every day partaking in some sort of alcohol. Even during school, we would have Coke cans or Pepsi cans in our lockers, and we would fill it with some sort of an alcoholic drink. So it really started overtaking, I guess, my thought process, and to a point where I couldn't wait for that next one. My sophomore year in high school, I was part of a Spanish class, and the only reason I joined the Spanish class is because they were going to head down to Mexico, and the only reason I wanted to go to Mexico is because they didn't have drinking age in Mexico. End of my sophomore year, I met a girl on a dare. I asked her out on a dare, and this girl very quickly became to like and wanted to become serious with, but she had a relationship with Jesus that I knew that if I continued down my track, that my relationship with her would not grow. And so I made a decision after going to that Mexico trip and becoming sick on the beach and paralyzed there for and overnight that I would stop drinking. And I cried out to God at that point that I need to stop drinking. I still had that desire and want to have that drink. That went on for a lot of years. And I didn't really know how to deal with that. I stopped drinking. I went cold turkey. I couldn't get rid of the desire to have that drink. And so rather than drinking, I thought, well, I'll just keep my mouth closed. And so I clenched my teeth, and that started hurting so much that I would actually took a toothpick and I'd break it in half, and I'd stick half of it on this side and half of it on this side of my molars, and I'd bite down on that. 15 or 16 years that I did that. Always had a toothpick in my mouth. And I thought I was doing a good thing by not drinking and living with that pain, and still having the desire that I really, really, really wanted it.
Yeah, there's almost a nobility to that, right? Like, look at me, I'm able to not drink, even though I want to, right? And at some level, there is a nobility to that.
I'm a conqueror,
Right.
Yep. And knowing that, physically, when I was a kid, a teenager, and even into my young adulthood, I could conquer just about anything physically. And so I thought that was just one more thing. Sitting in this chair.
Yeah. What happened that broke that?
We had a pastor. I actually had a vision, and had a pastor that Howard Madsen, who's since passed on, and he's with Jesus. But as he would teach and preach, he did something with his hands. He did this. And he would say, "Come on, come to me," as he was preaching and talking about God or Jesus calling people to himself. My eyes were closed. I visibly saw Jesus going like this. And my heart just opened to a point where God was able to shine light into that dark spot. And for the first time, in a lot of years, I had no pain in my jaw. I didn't have to clench my teeth anymore. I didn't have the need to put toothpicks in my mouth, because God showed me, forgave me, and gave me freedom.
Yeah, to experience that love on that level in that darkness. I remember you saying my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
I'm not clenching my jaw. I'm like, you've been clenching your jaw this whole time we've been sitting here, and you said no. I've been clenching my jaw since what, high school?
Yeah.
And then you got up and you went to your little pantry. Then what? Why'd you do that?
Previously, before we met, I got to get toothpicks because I had a box of toothpicks in there and I had one left. I think I gave it to you. I don't know if I did or not, but I think I gave it to you and threw the box away and said, "I don't need this anymore."
Yeah. And Julia was on her way to the store, or that day she had the assignment, get me more toothpicks.
Yep. Yeah.
That's why I do this. The difference between us just muscling through,
right,
and God's love untangling that twisted, dark stuff inside of us.
Yeah. And we all have something. The freedom that we can get, that true freedom of knowing that God wants to take that. That's why he died on the cross for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he shed his blood. That's why his body was broken.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can have that freedom.
Right.
It's not just for when we die and for when we have the ability to live with him in heaven for forever.
And that feeling in your jaw, has that ever come back in 20 years?
No, it's never come back. It's just, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what it feels like. I've had a lot of stress in my life, of course.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of challenges in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had that sense of, I got to clench my jaw.